Yeah.
It's gonna run straight through and then.
Right into it.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
It's gonna, it,
To start at 6:30.
Yeah.
So depending on when we end, will be dependent if you get a break.
Gotcha.
it just depends on what kind of
This
suggestion.
is the 60.
I would
It
have thought
just-
there'd be more people.
It's kind of good in a way.
This starts.
Don't jinx it, man.
Don't-
I know, right?
Agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, they all went to 50 from 4. Good for us.
Your responsibility. I had a hair point, my hair, like that's my hair, she lives.
Watch later than I say.
Wonder, did you go in there or was anybody there to let you in? You have to see in the inside.
Just door,
Stand
everywhere.
Okay, listen up, everybody. 6 o'clock, time to call to order the Lebanon City Council public hearing, for tonight. Public hearing on the preliminary fiscal year 2026-2027 budget for the city of Lebanon. First of all, I'm going to tell you where the city stands. Jessica's gonna give a little overview again, and then we're gonna open it up to you for suggestions as to how you would handle eliminating some of our deficit, our shortfall. Okay, currently, the city stands with the possibility of eliminating the building inspector, code enforcer position because there's really not enough work going on for the full-time position. We may, in the future, have a budget to contract out building inspections. And then we may end up turning the code enforcement over to PD. Currently, that's one of the positions. The other goes, we're eliminating 2 positions with lowest seniority from the water sewer department and 2 from the streets and alleys department. So that's where we stand right now. You got something, Jess?
I could just go over.
Oh, and I want to say, the budget was out for everybody to look at. Not a single person came to City Hall to look that over, which kind of really doesn't surprise me, but when you hear a lot of complaints and stuff, it's like the least you could do is look at the thing. Okay, Jess, sorry.
It was online.
Okay, it was in here too. Okay. Well, you're not that far away. You could come in if you wanted to.
It's not really an accurate, but.
Okay, it's the budget we had.
Oh, yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Jessica.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
For the lights.
They should be, you guys can see it, right, without turning the lights and stuff off?
Yeah.
Okay, first and foremost, we didn't pay for this, so please don't come after me. When we upgraded the security, when we changed some security things, we ended up having a monitor that was no longer used at the PD. And so I called chief and asked if we could bring it here because our projector, you always have to get the lighting just right and everything else. So this is, came from that. So, total revenue for a couple things that I'll go through is on the general revenue. We're gonna budget around 2.5 million, just over. Out of that revenue, your expenses that are gonna come out of that are the police, the admin, the ambulance, the street, and the cemetery budget all comes out of that general revenue account. With everything we have budgeted, you can see here that we have an estimated remaining of $66. Now, there is some line items in there is like miscellaneous and things like that to make sure that, so there is some room in there a little bit, but not a lot. I'm not gonna go through in detail. He already kind of hit on the major things, but I'm not gonna go in detail on what every expense is. Again, they're all listed. They were all available online, for each of those budgets. I did notate on the police budget, couple things on there. The SRO, even though it's 100% shown in the police budget, 9 months of it is paid by the school. DEA, same thing in the overtime where we illustrate what our overtime is. The DEA overtime is reimbursed where we don't have that kind of spelled out separately. So that's something to keep in mind on that. Ambulance, same thing. It's kind of a pass through. We have it budgeted, but we pay them. And then the fire department actually collects that money and then they reimburse us for what we paid on the contract. Street expenses, we have all that in there. Cemetery, I didn't make a lot of changes to the cemetery budget from what I originally proposed. That being that no matter what, we're gonna have to figure out how we're maintaining that cemetery. So there wasn't a lot of flex in there and didn't make a lot of drastic changes. Business district tax. So one of the things I received a few emails on was some of these other accounts. And so I want to be clear on a few of these. The business district, this is the tax that we receive in that district. The estimated revenue is $328,000. This money cannot be spent on like our general expenses. This money has to be earmarked towards that business district and improvements within it. So we can't borrow money from this to take care of other issues. So you'll see that I budgeted that $100,000 for a downtown business expense. That is us starting to put money towards just simply having to either have projects downtown, but also dealing with City Hall. So it's not spent on anything necessarily, but I wanted to have money that we start setting aside so that once we know what we're doing, whatever it may be with that building, we have already started allocating some funds towards that. And so we're not going to go in 2 years, a year, 6 months, whatever it may be that we decide something and we've not been making any effort towards that. The business facade improvements is the $50,000 that we have said that we would do in the grants towards the businesses to fix up their buildings. So that will not change. We still have that grant program available and that will start again this year. We also have budgeted in there some new business incentives. So this is one big thing, is like everybody's been like, what are you doing about revenue? And what are we talking about? Just expenses, but also the revenue side of things. We do have the new business incentives budgeted out of this. We have about $100,000 that we can offer to new businesses coming in for different things. You will also see that we have some available in the TIF district as well. This grant programs is $100,000 that those are grants that we have qualified for or are going after within the business district that we can take funds from this to help pay for. That's what that is. Again, we're very limited on what we can spend those funds on. This one is the fund. This is where our hotel and Airbnb, those that pay a fee, and the taxes on the short-term rentals and things like that. That money has to go into a separate account and that money is earmarked towards what it can only be spent on certain things as well. Right now I have it going towards the city website, because one of the things that we can spend the money on is advertising for those short-term rentals to stay. So if you go to our city website right now, you'll see a tab that says, where can I stay? And you'll see all those places listed on there. And so we can pay for the website out of that money, which we have not done in the past. That's a new thing. So you're going to see that earmarked out of there and it will not be in the general expense like it was last year. TIF district, same thing. This money can only be spent in the TIF district. We have total revenue of about $148,000. IGA does still have a agreement that will be on there for last year when they were open. They will receive that. However, until somebody else goes in there, we don't really know what will happen with that TIF thing, but he will not receive that money while he's not open since he was closed January this year. So next year we will not have to pay that money from what I understand. 618 Inc. did get a TIF agreement for updoing the old pizza building there. So we will have that this year. I budgeted for new business incentives. Again, as new people come to town wanting to open businesses, there's budgeted money to be able to incentivize them to do that. The Road to Nowhere, I believe is what the public has named it. I do have $25,000 budget on that because if we do have a business that wants to come to town into that area, there will be a day when we know that we have to complete that road further as far as paving it or something. This doesn't mean that we're going to do that this year, but I wanted to go ahead and start earmarking money towards it so that we don't spend it, so that when that date does come, we know that we've already been planning for that. So that's what that money is in there. Motor fuel, 229. This is what we've been talking about on the projects and things that we can do, and we started with the big project that was gonna take a couple years worth of it. You guys just voted to carve that back, and we're looking at a smaller project. I budgeted $150,000 on that. I also, if we are gonna move forward, the Director of Public Works, we are allowed to pay a portion of his pay out of that as well. And so you'll see a portion of his pay budgeted on there. You'll see there is remaining money on there that we'll be able to use for infrastructure projects. Non-home rule. This is where a lot of our insurance and everything comes out of. That's mainly where that's gonna go. You can see it doesn't have a whole lot remaining in that. This is one of the accounts that we have borrowed against in the years past as well. So we really want to try and not do that again, because it really is taking almost all of it. Utility tax. Again, this is the one that we've been borrowing against the most. You can see we have all the grants in here. The biggest thing that's notated on this one is you'll see down at the bottom, we are short the 478,000 roughly. We will explore internal or external financing options. How that will work is we will work with Luke if we go internal to leverage money and work out a finance agreement where we would pay that back to utility tax, or wherever we borrow it from the utility tax. But essentially, we don't know when these grants are exactly going to hit. So I don't want to go get a loan right now for the full amount. And let's say, for example, if you've seen the recent proposals that have come out, IDOT has already said that there's going to be some major changes coming in the next couple of years for downstate Illinois, because they shifted the budget, that there's a lot of the money is going towards Chicago roads and not downstate roads. And so if they don't come forward on those projects, then we won't owe that money. So I don't want to take a loan out and start paying interest and paying on that money now if we're not going to need it. So as those come up, we will work on a line of credit or a loan, hopefully internally, where we don't have to pay the high interest rate versus if we go to a bank or something like that, paying like a 6% interest, we want to try to avoid. So that is showing it a negative, but we do have financing options that we have been looking into and will bring forward as needed throughout the year as those bills come due. Water fund, we have our total revenues at just over $1 million, and then our total expenses. We are still short on this budget a little bit, but there is carryover from past years for some of the things on these projects that are illustrated that will be done this year. There was carryover that we had planned on in past years. So the account balance will be able to cover that. Sewer fund, total revenue over 1.4 million. And we have the expenditures at right at $15 off from where it's going to be. Again, on the water and sewer fund, the thing that's kind of tricky and hard to illustrate is when we have projects that are planned, it will show as an expense in this year's budget, even if we've been saving for it on prior years. So we do have some carryover in the accounts that will go towards some of those projects and things like that. And unfortunately, some of those things are going to have to be used from prior year in our carryover balances. So that's a quick overview on all of that. Otherwise, I think I have pretty well talked to you guys to death on where we are financially for the last month.
Okay.
So.
And once again, I'm going to go over that. We're going to eliminate the building inspector, code enforcer position, and 2 people from the water sewer, 2 people from the streets and alleys, the ones with the lowest senior, with the least amount of seniority, are what we have planned for right now. That may change, but right now that's where we stand. So now we're going to open up to anybody out there. We still have a committee meeting at 6:30, so I'll give you like 2 or 3 minutes if you want to state if you have any suggestions or whatever. No one?
Really, what is there any reason to talk about it? It's gonna be rubber stamped like it has for the last 30 years. So, I mean, the only.
This is just an opportunity for you to say something. I mean, people have said things on Facebook. We got your attention here now. Okay, Bill?
So can you explain how the borrowing worked in the last several years and where that's at in the municipal tax? I know I've heard it said that the city's been borrowing from one account to money to another to meet payroll. Is that the municipal utility tax remaining negative, or is there another account somewhere that we're not seeing? I'm used to seeing balance sheets, not income statements. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so the utility tax is the one that we've been borrowing against, and the non-home rule is the other one that we've been borrowing against. You will not see in here right this second a budgeted amount that we are paying back what we owe in that account. That is something we will be working towards, but it is not in there. There is not a line item of paying that back yet. The utility tax, so for example, when we did these grants a couple years ago, it is my understanding that we had over $900,000 in that account at that time when we applied for those. Now we are down, the last balance sheet that I got, we were down under 140,000.
So is that the negative remaining negative 768? Is that reflection?
Sorry, on the utility tax budget?
Yeah, utility tax budget. Or is that in addition to that?
The 768, no, so. This is one of the arguments that I've kind of had on how we have to do things and everything. So with the state on what we have to publish is the 1 year budget. And so it has all those expenses in there, but the way that we have things set up currently, we don't show our balances on this expenditures. It's like the previous years don't matter. Like we just start at year 0 every year.
So going forward, budget.
Yes. So one of the things that I am going to be moving us forward to is I would like to be able to every year start with what our balance is in our accounts and then have our expenditures and be able to show what's remaining. I've seen some other municipalities that do that. That is, again, one of those things that we have not done. And so I don't know if it's a matter of changing processes or ordinances or what we have to do, but some of our documentation and things that will start coming out to you guys will start to look a little different. Also, the aldermen receive a treasurer's report that has account balances on it every month. And they receive a budget analysis every month, but that has not been posted to the public in the past. I will start trying to share that as well. But so the total revenue, the 258,756 is what we expect to bring in this year for utility tax. And then we have all the expenditures and it leaves us a deficit of 768. If you see that carryover from past years of 140,000, that's estimated what I think will be in that account roughly to carry over from last year to start getting us down to, and then I had the business district, the non-home rule, that remaining of 478.
Gotcha.
Anyone else? Okay, Kent?
Yeah, on tonight's agenda, there's gonna be discussion on the necessary layoff of employees. It's my understanding this is to reduce the budget. I also see that at the end of the agenda, there's going to be discussion about possibly implementing an early retirement for employees that are close to retirement. I would assume that having employees that would retire early would also reduce the budget, just as layoffs would. I've
Yeah,
heard that all avenues have been looked at to reduce the budget, but now we're first looking at early retirement to reduce the budget. It's a huge thing.
That's one thing that's gonna be thrown out there, Kent, was that there are a couple of people that are eligible to retire, not with full benefits or whatever stuff, because they're not 65. But if they step forward, that would leave another vacancy or whatever stuff for somebody else rather than that person still be in that position. Would eliminate a layoff in there. If someone would step forward. I mean, that's not, you can't make them do it, but it's just thrown out there.
I believe there's ways to have incentives for that, or am I mistaken on that?
There's a thing, we looked into that, Penny was showing me, it's called,
Yeah.
the ERI, what is it? Early retirement incentive. But there was supposed to have been a resolution for that in the past, and Lebanon never did that. So in order to implement that, yeah, surprise, but in order to implement that, it's gonna take several months or whatever stuff of all the kind of red tape you have to go through to even get that started. So that's kind of off the table right now.
I see.
Okay, anybody else?
Shouldn't that have been something that was looked into before looking at laying off people?
That was one of the things, no one knew anything about this ERI thing. I wouldn't have known about it if Penny hadn't showed me that, the ERI. The early retirement incentive.
Charlie, not to stop you, but that's not something that could have been done like years ago, unless, once you do it, it's for a year time period.
No, it is. You have to do, you have to do you have to
In
do,
that big a hurry to get rid of everybody that we can't look into that before we get rid of people?
We have to do that, like you're saying, it was I think a resolution has to be done every year on that, correct?
No, it's just whenever you decide to make it available to the employees, then it would be made available for a 1-year time period. So you need to look into it further, but what I'm saying is to say now at the end of the budget, well, or at the end of the meeting, I mean, now we're gonna look into it, starting May 1st. We've already gotten rid of people at the end of the year. Why not see what it entails before you lay people off? You know, that's why I mentioned it to you when I did, before we got to this point.
Well, Luke is looking into that now. I gave him all the stuff. I looked it up online and gave him the whole 9 or 10 pages, whatever it was about the ERI.
I guess we need to be balanced. If we can't
Yeah.
pursue that,
No,
it's gonna take months, but we gotta have a balanced budget.
Jessica, did you not say that you were putting a couple of months of pay of, we'll call it fluff pay in there to the payroll for salaries? You wait to see what was going to happen?
Yes, I did put 2 to 3 months in there to be able to accommodate going to the public works. The ERI is going to take approximately a year to get put in place. According to the information and stuff that we received, it's a minimum of 6 months before we would even be able to offer it. And from what I understand, it doesn't benefit everybody. It's not something that we would be able to offer to everybody. There's certain qualifications and things that it would go into. And so the problem is like, we don't have 6 months to wait.
So I agree with that, but I was told that it did not take 6 months to do that when I inquired about it. So I would just want everyone to do their due diligence to look into that, because I was not told 6 months. Yes, it takes an ordinance. Yes, it takes the city looking into what it would cost them to do that. And no, if you don't have a certain amount of time in here, it wouldn't be beneficial for people, but there are a lot of people that it would be beneficial for, and one of them is not me. So I suggested that for the other people who are on the board. So I think that you really need to know what you're talking about, other than just saying it's 6 months and we can't worry about that, you know, we gotta do this now. Let's make sure that that is the case, because when I delved into it with IMRF, I was told differently than 6 months.
As was I.
yeah, thanks, Benny. Anybody else? Ron?
I think the problem here is, a lot of years ago, the city, there's a big discussion on what you guys are gonna do. The plan was put forward, cut public works, cut, street department, cut water department.
Right.
Large voice in the crowd against that, we wanted to go. Everybody out here said, you need to cut across the board. You guys voted to cut across the board. You have not done that. I got a problem with that. And I know Dave put up a hell of a good argument. I gotcha. And he's done a good job as far as informing the police department over the years that he's been here. We've got probably one of the best equipped police departments in the area, and that's great. Based on that, we got time to cope. We got vehicles, we got equipment, we're up to date. We shouldn't have to put a whole lot of money in that police department for several years. We can coast there. We can cut personnel. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to cut police, I don't either. Other comment? You're gonna turn over code enforcement to the police, and that's fine. Other cities do that.
We may do that. That's not,
Okay, it's a possibility.
possibility, yeah.
That could be a good idea. My concern is, no offense, Dave, but in the past, I've been trying to get proof as to what their police department's doing for 3 or 4 years. We cannot get a meaningful police report in the papers telling the citizens of this town what they're doing. Fallon does it. Good does it. The paper here has been trying to get something meaningful. We cannot get that. If they're gonna do this, if they're gonna do code enforcement, I want proof. I wanna see on a monthly basis in the papers, what's going on. Code enforcement fines, whatever, numbers, it makes sense. If you're not gonna do that, no. If you're just shifting things around. And the other thing is, if you end up contracting out for inspections, for God's sake, get somebody that's good and knows what they're doing.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I just have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
And who are you again? No, Deb.
No, the thing is you say, well, we may do this, or like with code enforcement, we may, okay. There's no, like, what are we gonna do?
Okay,
with
I'm gonna,
cemetery?
I'm gonna interrupt you for a minute. Some of that stuff is for the council meeting to discuss tonight, to bring forward, so I can't actually give you a definite right now.
So basically, the budget really doesn't reflect all this stuff that you're gonna do. Cause I mean, I'm sorry, I've had to deal with and make budgets before, okay? You can play around with the budget all you want. You put your expenses down there, since it has to be balanced, you inflate your revenue. You've been doing this for years because that's why you have no cash flow. You have to have revenue. Actual revenue to have good cash flow. So, like I said, the business tax, the 1% business tax, have you collected $315,000 for the last year? The last total I got was said 200,000, well, you're $115,000 up on that.
You got a number on that, Jess? by any chance?
Give me just one.
Okay, sure.
So that, see, you worry so much about revenue and worry about expenses, but I'm sure the guy from Ace Hardware can tell you, you have to have cash flow and you don't have it. That's why you finance police cars. You finance everything you got and make payments.